Greetings, everyone. My name is Cassandra-Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. Back at y'all ass again today. Try to keep this shit short and sweet. Morning from Mikatra, Western Australia. How you doing, Evelyn? Okay. So yeah. Happy new moon wherever you are. Either it was yesterday or today, but we're still right in the thick of it. So happy new moon. And in honor of the new moon, I thought I would do a read for the temple today. So that is what I am going to do. I did a poll earlier today. So you take from this reading what is for you. That which does not apply, leave it where it is. So yeah, some things, some what do you call it? Housekeeping I want to do though is I want to remind those who volunteered to capture some cicada songs for me. I haven't heard from anybody yet, but I need those. If you are anywhere in the western portion of the United States where the cicada brood is happening, please take 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, take your phone outside and capture cicada songs for me and email them to me, please. It is so important, and I haven't had anybody send me those yet, but I need them. And I don't know how long the brood is going to last, but I did get word that the brood has started. So some of y'all are hearing cicada songs. They obviously, they sing a lot louder at night when the world is kind of quiet. So like I said, even if it's 10 minutes and I just have to, spin it on a loop or whatever, I really need somebody to send me cicada songs, preferably from different regions. So if you're in different areas, capture, put the phone out, whatever. Greetings, everyone, everybody coming into the room. I need cicada songs. Okay. So wherever you is on the eastern portion of the country, so the places where the broods are being able, it's pretty much the entire, kind of middle, kind of eastern, crossing over into the midwestern portion of the United States. So like upper eastern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, upper portion of Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Illinois, all them places. You feel me? All the way up into the Great Lakes. So I need cicada songs. It's so urgently important. So somebody please send me, a little recording of cicada songs, wherever you is. My email address is release.heart.center@gmail.com. Release.heart.center@gmail.com. So several of you, many of you have been emailing me this week saying that you finally received your crystal quartz from I did the mailing a while ago, so some of y'all are just getting it, so it's crazy. They tell you three to 5 days and it's 2 weeks or whatever. But anyway, most of y'all have gotten them. I've gotten several emails from everybody, so I'm glad that you got those. Power up. You understand? I did not go all the way across the country and go through the most crazy shit to get up in the mountains and dig for crystals at the height of that solar eclipse. Power up. You understand? So again, today is the new moon. And some of the takeaways, I'm not going to do like a deep in-depth thing about the new moon in and of itself. I'm going to do this reading for the temple that I pulled on this here new moon. But I think it's worth repeating just some basic takeaways from any new moon is that the new moon energy is about planning. It's about greeting solis. It's about charting a course. It is about recognizing where you've come from, analyzing where you are, what you can't and should not take with you as you plant and sow these new intentions and seeds, right? It is an earth sign. It's the first earth sign of every new year, Taurus. And there's a lot to take away from Taurus. Taurus, really calls on us to not be stubborn or rigid, right? Making sure that we secure our foundation as we sow these new seeds, as we rechart our course or whatever that is. Also, it's about beautifying your space, whether that's your body space or whether it's the lived in space, but beautifying your space, because it gives you a sense of peace and ease. So that's big. I know I talked to y'all last week. I think was the last time I did a live about how I was just feeling this kind of energetic weirdness, this kind of inarticulable, I don't know. I still can't give voice to it. I still don't know what it is I'm experiencing, but that has not gone away. So I've been very, very gentle with myself the last couple of weeks, because whatever it is I am experiencing, I know it's not just me. It's this evil, eerie calm despite the noise. This kind of, and my eyes look different. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I went hiking a couple of days ago and nothing different. I mean, but the trees look different and like the atmosphere looked different. I don't know if that makes any sense. Everything looked like, I don't know, this space between real and not real. I'm going through something that, and y'all know me, I can talk and I can, I'm pretty colorful with my language. And for me to not be able to give voice to something, for me to not be able to articulate clearly what it is I'm experiencing is new for me. It's really new for me, but I'm not trying to force either, So anyway, I'm going to do this read today for the temple that I pulled earlier today. And let's see what we can pull from it. The other thing I will say about this new moon and being really mindful and deliberate, especially over the next 48 hours, about how you're moving, how you're talking, what your self-talk sounds like, is like seizing ownership of our personal power, that no matter how overwhelming or how big the outside world seems to be, to be very, very strategic in that which we allow into our space, that which we allow into our head, that which we allow into our heart, so that we can, at least those things that we can control, which is our immediate surroundings, which is our immediate feelings in response to the external world, that is something that we have control over if we're present and if we're deliberate about how we make moves. I saw this video today about what it called collective illusions. Collective illusions, it was like these myths. It was called debunking the 8 myths of social mass, or something to that effect. Debunking the 8 myths of social math. It was really, really interesting. It was really, really interesting. And one of the things that the guy talked about was how, these collective illusions being based in a couple of things. One, when they do all of these different, like polls or surveys of people in this thing that he's talking about, how people, when they are in public or in the presence of others, will answer questions one way. And then when you question them in private or in isolation, they answer those very same questions another way. The thing that gives rise to them answering the questions one way in public is because a lot of the time we are afraid of shaming and scrutiny, and our internal defense mechanisms have us to be fearful of not being a part of the group. And in that, when people were answering these various questions in these two different settings and answering differently across the board, one of the things that gave rise to them answering the question the one way in public was their perception of how others in the group would answer. Their perception of what they think others might say, how they think others might answer. And that would change radically behind closed doors. But the interesting thing was after they did all these questions and they went to, calculate, they went to calculate, my little jewelry came off. They went to calculate the differences in answers to each question, public and private, that across the board, typically the answers would be the same in public and the answers would be the same in private. So everybody is answering the question the way they perceive everybody else is going to answer the question. And those numbers were almost, neck and neck. And then turn around as the same people, the same series of questions, and they answered the same way in private. Then the private answers and the public answers were wildly different. But get them same group of people behind closed doors, and their answers are damn near the same in private and in public, right? That they feel like they can be honest because they're safe in their own surroundings without scrutiny. They answer in public the way they perceive everybody else is going to answer, right? It was a really fascinating piece. And one of the things that he mentioned in terms of this, what he called collective illusions, these illusions being based on social, quote, norms and mores that have no basis in the material world in terms of how they serve us, how they protect us, how they bring us together, how they, make us separate from each other or whatever. They are just norms, even if we don't do an honest assessment of where those norms came from and how they were established, because he talked about them. You understand? And he said one of the things that contributes to that now is social media. He said we go on social media and we have these algorithms that tell us that so many people over here, have similar ideas or behaviors as you. So we're gonna, put stuff over here that relates to you or whatever. And he said that shit he said it's not arbitrary. He said the algorithm is impacted by one thing in particular. He said most people think that the ideas that are being pushed out in the world to them are like a general representation of the various ways people in this country, believe. These beliefs that they have, these ideas that they have or whatever. And then you will have these people laid up on these social media platforms, and you think that you are, having interaction with and being informed by, a myriad of people across the board. And he said, unfortunately, all the studies have shown that across media platforms, 80% of all information that we receive, he's just talking about social media. He wasn't even talking about like major media. You know what I'm saying? News outlets and stuff like that. He's talking about social media. He said 80% of the information that is out there that we consume on social media platforms are produced by 10%. 10% of people participating in these platforms. I was like, damn, that's really radical. He said, so when you are, and I've been saying that since the beginning. I've been saying that since the beginning of this damn social media, sociological project. I was like, 99.9 of this shit is police shit. You know what I'm saying? When you get that weirdo just laid up on your shit, trying to initiate a debate, and if you don't take debate, they're gonna try to, debate with everybody in your feed that will respond to them and give. I was like, that's police shit. Them police. the police, right? As God is basically saying, these are either bots, what they call social, he called it a word, social something bots, right? Where specific words are programmed to trigger these bots to give feedback to, right? And then he talks about the others are people who, literally lay damn near full time up on the internet, functioning as like, what do you call it? Like trying to trigger people, like trying to get people involved in some dumb shit, right? And so he said, if you can wrap your mind around, and he said, this shit is so deep, and people, since the advent of the internet, the first people to use these kind of techniques, these sociological techniques through social media, were governments. Before they were ever made public to us, they were being used by governments to shape news. And he gave several very specific examples of how this had been used in the relatively recent past, right? It just got me thinking about, I'm not going to go that deep into it now, but it just got me thinking about, one, the kind of content that I've been making the last few weeks. And I think it's valuable content. I think it's important. But I also, from time to time, feel the need to pivot in another direction. And that pivot, I am increasingly feel like has to be more in alignment with the vision of the future that I have been articulating, as opposed to acknowledging, quote, the current ails in society. I feel like there is enough of that happening. Yes, trolls. I feel like there's enough of that happening, right, in the world. And I still, go back and forth about what is actually important to be discussing in a way that still can contribute to this, to this view that we have. This little piece, it's I think it's Big Think that did it, but the name of it is something to the effect of 8 myths debunked, 8 myths on 8 myths debunked on social mass, or something to the effect. I will find it, and I'll put it in the description after this post. But it just got me thinking about, this place that we must occupy, this space that we need to occupy, that rests comfortably between science and history and political history and sociology and psychology and quantum physics and spirituality. Because there is this space where all of these things intersect, right? And more often than not, it is we will choose a point of reference, and we will not deviate from that point of reference, even if there are 5, 10, 20 different other contributing factors to this, that contribute to this point of reference that we're stuck on, right? I hope that makes sense, because the whole idea of how our perception of the world around us, the chemical and electrical response that we emanate and produce based on our perception, is not based on the stimuli. It's based on our perception of the stimuli, right? So depending upon where a person is and what kind of experiences they have had, a door slamming may elicit like, like a fear reaction in one person, and it may elicit an anger reaction in another. Those are two separate sets of biochemical and electrical responses based on these two different people's perception of the stimulus. Hope that makes sense, because it's deep. our perception of the world around us, which is informed by a myriad of things, including, millions and millions and millions of pieces of information that we've come into contact with and processed, whether consciously or subconsciously, informing our nervous system, informing our central nervous system, informing our peripheral nervous system, informing our endocrine glands, informing our hypothalamus and our pineal gland, and all of those things working in perfect orchestration to elicit the appropriate response that in some way or another is going to contribute to the preservation of our existence, our life in real time. That's all it's for. Our body is always working, and all the magical shit that it does, its primary goal is to sustain and protect our life as best possible until so that we can, contribute to the preservation of the species. That's what it is. The reason this becomes important is because most times, there's a way that people who are, quote, scientific or, quote, political tend to really ignore the intricacy of the scientific process internally, what that means in terms of our social relationships, and what those social relationships contribute to the development of how we even see the world. Because again, interpretation is one of the biggest issues. I will interpret, I will respond to, my perception of some external stimuli may be totally different than the next person, which is going to determine the outcome and how our entire body, central nervous system and all that shit is going to respond, right? Though our social relationships play just as much a significant role as anything else, right? And so that's one thing. These super scientists, these hardcore, like revolutionaries and activists and things like that, these hardcore, reactionaries on the extreme opposite end, don't sit still enough to analyze those things and how we articulate those things as some kind of spiritual experience. The spiritual experience that we are constantly talking about in a million different ways are just a different language used to articulate many times. In many instances, these aren't based on some kind of abstraction. These spiritual philosophies, these spiritual practices, these ways that we articulate our personal spiritual experience or whatever, these don't come from a place of disassociation or disembodiment or abstraction, ambiguity, right? They come from somewhere. They come from a very real, materially lived experience. And again, our perception of external stimuli, all of it, whether that's stimuli that we acknowledge consciously or whether that's external stimuli that's impacting our subconscious all the time, right? And the reason that I'm saying this is because this question of, there's a lot of questions out there where spirituality is concerned. And that's the other thing. I'll say this, right? Super spiritual, political, whatever. They don't acknowledge spirituality is something as significant and real and valid, in this process of us being able to live a life. But the opposite is true as well. People who are so super spiritual, so super, like detached from the earth, or what have you, have a bad habit of being so disembodied, so disconnected, so bypassing that that to acknowledge the material world, to live fully in the material world, right, eludes them, because somehow to be in the material world, exist in the material world, be concerned about those things happening in the material world will lessen or impede on their spiritual journey or their ascension or whatever the fuck they own on any given day. This is the divide that rests between these spaces. political spaces, historical spaces, scientific spaces, activist spaces, and spiritual spaces. This is the big chasm, the big void that exists in all of them. This is the place that we have to lay in. This is the place that we have to live in. Greetings, Carlotta. This is the place we have to live in. This is the place that we have to step into. You understand? Is how to be whole. How to be whole. And what that is supposed to afford us is the ability at any given time to think and move and behave and interact holistically. You can never achieve, quote, a holistic life if you are disembodied from the whole. You a, quote, individual. How that work? How you an individual sitting inside of a whole that's suffering? How are you, the picture and personification of perfect health, wellness, and happiness sitting in a sea of suffering? How that happen? How that work? So I'm always telling y'all that we're all sick. While one is sick, we are all sick. While one is not well, we all are not well. This ain't a stretch. This ain't a stretch. You understand what I'm saying? You would have no problem saying that a person, right, who has cancer, like identifiable now, cancer, you understand, and recognize that it took a singular cell gone rogue, a singular cell, for whatever reason, forgetting its biological mechanisms and how it is supposed to function within the whole of these other billions of cells that exist in the one, in the whole. That is you, right? That one singular cell, and it may take a long time, but that rogue cell is indicative of something wrong with the whole, not with just the cell itself. Something has happened to the whole, and the cell becomes the place where this thing that has happened and has been left unresolved manifests itself. And if it goes on longer, then that cell becomes 2, and those 2 become 4, and those 4 become 8. Until finally, after 10 years, after 15 years of those cells going rogue, right? And you experiencing symptoms all along, and you reject them, or you ignore them, or you, because of whatever, the medical system is terrible and you scared to go to doctors, whatever it is. After a while, the body will say, hey, now this ain't no shit we can ignore no more. We've been giving you symptoms. You know what I'm saying? We've been making your belly hurt. You feel me? We've been giving you all these symptoms all along to get on top of this thing, and you have ignored it. And so now here we are. Now you have to have these invasive processes done because you could not pay attention to me. That's us. That's us. There are 8.5 billion people on the planet. We the 8.5 billion cells of Mother Earth's body. And so when we have a philosophy like, I'm an individual in spite of the whole, I'm going to have my happiness and my wellness and my wealth and my abundance at everybody's expense, that's a cell gone rogue. That's a cell that's forgotten who it is in the grand scheme of the whole, how it's supposed to function. What's its predetermined destiny is. Every cell has a job to do. That job is made clear at inception. At inception, these cells say, I know exactly what my job is. When I'm supposed to die so I can be reborn as a new cell. Am I going to be a liver cell? Am I going to be a lung cell? You feel me? Every cell. This is a perfect orchestration of what we're supposed to be living in the outside orchestration. Gone rogue. Run amok. You feel me? The reason I'm saying that is because we have to live in this space where these things that are seemingly unrelated, and they're seemingly unrelated because our owners have made them so. The dichotomies have been created by our owners to do exactly what it does. These dichotomies, these chasms that lay between these things that together, working in perfect harmony, would represent a whole self within the body of the mother, a whole human a whole humanity functioning in accord, even with very specific differences manifested, those differences would not be the point of contention, you see. These differences would not be seen as antagonistic if we were functioning holistically within the body of the one, right? And so all of these things that are symptoms of her unwellness, right? The hole in the ozone layer, the terrorizing of the waters and the cutting down of the rainforest and the, what you call that shit? The crisis of waste and how much waste all of these are symptoms. And just like we would treat a person, yes, we can treat the symptoms at the same time that we are getting to the root of the condition that has expressed itself as these myriad of symptoms in the first place, which is the world that we're living in. But we cannot do that. We are crisis managing is what we're doing. We've been trained just to crisis manage. Pick at every single freaking issue that manifests itself from capitalism and, colonialism and imperialism and all the isms. You feel me? To keep, what did Mary Daly say? To keep us chasing our motherfucking tails in circles. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but she said that. She said these things, yes, we become the incessant superheroes trying to save the world, but that shit is an orchestration to keep our energy diverted from what the issue is and how to adequately address it, how to get to the root of the matter so that we can heal it, exercise it if need be, root it out to pave a new way forward. And this is the space that we have to live in. We have to live in the space that bridges these chasms created to keep us distracted. You understand? And the only way to do that, one, is to study. Two, is to go out into the world and seek mentors. Talk to someone who we know knows more than we do. I tell y'all that all the time. Because that ain't no shit I'm just preaching. I'm constantly seeking out, whether it's on YouTube and out here in the world, people who know more than me. It's not going to serve anybody for me to, quote, know everything. And so my learning process, then I'm stuck in place. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I am trying to do is make the complicated uncomplicated. What I am trying to do is to destroy a strategy of creating mysteries to disempower people. Mysteries are created by those in power to disempower those that they control, dominate, and exploit. That's what all mysteries are there for. All of them. Right now, under patriarchy. That's what they're there for. Is to maintain a stranglehold on people's lives. You feel what I'm saying? Is to keep them from imagining something better. Yeah, is to keep them so distracted that they do not have a single breath to spare, to daydream about what could be better in the world, how they can participate, how they can see themselves participating in the new. That's what it's for. All this noise, and I told y'all just a month ago, I said, the power is ours to seize, but we have to do what? Oh my God. We have to be more vigilant now than ever to be present in every moment. To be present so that we do not become permanent, perpetual reactionaries to that shit put out to us to control, dominate, and demoralize us. This shit that exists out in the world right now, that's existed for a long time. We're treating everything that's happening right now in real time as if this is something new. It is not. What it is doing is they're feeding it to you every day. They're pushing it down your throat every day. They're fucking demoralizing your spirit with the shit every day. Every day. Every day, some legislation is coming down the pike, and the primary purpose of it is for you to see it and for you to feel disempowered by it, for you to feel discouraged by it, for you to say, damn, this shit too big. We ain't never gonna win. Buy it. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. Everybody talking about TikTok and the new TikTok, man. Everybody talking about the different ways that this society is clamping down on the rights of women. Cool. Everybody's talking about the obvious thing happening in Palestine. if they honest, they give a little bit of nudge to what's happening in Africa, in the various places in Africa. You feel me? People talking about the 4B movement, just like I did last week. These things are important, and I'm not trying to diminish their importance at all. But these things that we're talking about every day, all day, have been ongoing for a long time. The genocide in Congo did not just start. It has been unending and unebbing since the 1930s. Unending and unebbing since the 1930s. You understand what I'm saying? So this thing happening in the Middle East has been unending and unebbing since the birth of that bitch. Do you understand? Why the sudden increase? Now we can say, okay, well, the reason that we're talking about it now is because of what happened on October 7th, which is bullshit. You feel me? I'm going to tell you, that was a scapegoat. October 7th was a scapegoat, a necessary false flag operation to justify what was already in the works. You feel me? That's one thing. The other thing is these things that are happening, we can acknowledge them because they will have some impact on our life. I just told y'all last week when I was talking about the 4B movement and, and these increases in violent crimes against women, not to demoralize you and not to scare you. We do have to be present. That's what it means to be present. It means to be aware, but to still be able to seize ownership on our response to the external stimuli so that we can guarantee that we are present enough to create something new. Our biochemistry allows us to do that. If our kidneys are, well, let me not even get that deep. Anyway, I'm telling y'all this because when I talk about spirituality, when we talk about like the power of manifestation, the power of affirmations, meditation, and visualization, right? We talk about, where two or more are gathered, there I am, right? When we talk about the need for women to be in circle together, right? The need for men to be in circle together, right? The need for us to put our hands on one another, right? All of these things. What I love about this period that we're in is that these things that have been always known, right? The need for human contact and touch, right? The need to dream, the importance of dreaming. And we had, philosophical and spiritual language to articulate the importance of these things. But what I love about this period, at least for me, and at least for people like me, and there are many, 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 many people like me who really comfortably walk the space that marries science and spirit. You feel me? And what I love about this period is that which our ancient ancestors understood clearly and had developed through scientific methods of observation and application, that which sounds, quote, witchy to us or ooga booga-esh to us, to the general population. As a scientist, I am so excited by the fact that so much of this has a biochemical explanation that justifies, that proves, that legitimizes that. And why would that be rocket science or anything like that to us? It is because I continue and will forever say that science is the language of spirit. Science is the language of spirit. It is. One does not, if we're thinking correctly, if we're not thinking in a very linear, Eurocentric, colonial, patriarchal mentality, then we can easily recognize and accept that this is truth. That they still are a representation of the harmony of opposites, the yin and the yang, right? Anyway, I just felt like it was important to say that because I told y'all in March that while these energies that are coming down the pike astrologically, astronomically, these energies are going to be intense. They represent a radical potential for extraordinary and rapid change and transformation throughout society and in our personal lives. That these energies respond to what is received, especially with Jupiter still being squarely in the mix. I can only magnify what you putting out, bitch. I can only give back what you're giving. Now, I'm benevolent, so I want you to give me good shit. I want you to give me, affirmations and plans and blessings, and you know what I'm saying? But I can only magnify that which you are giving. I can only put out the information that's being input. You feel me? And so I was saying since March, I've said that several times, that these energies represent the ball on the string that swings the pendulum. And the pendulum is going, the power and the intensity and the momentum is going to really be, is really the ball, the intention of the ball, the weight of the ball, the factors surrounding the ball is what's going to determine whether this powerful momentum and energy potential is going to swing in the direction of the oppressor, or is it going to finally swing in the direction of those that have been oppressed? We determine that. That's not some disembodied, ambiguous, super Sado separated spiritual shit off the fuck in the abyss somewhere. We determine that. And so what these studies teach us, that's why science is so important. That's why these studies are so brilliant, is because the language of, quote, energy swinging in our direction, momentum being in our possession, for us to be able to use that momentum to shape something in our favor, that's not a disembodied, ambiguous statement, baby. That's a scientific statement. When you talk about collective contagia, right? When you talk about collective illusions and how they can actually test the blood of those subjects based on their perception of the information being input, how their blood is going to change, how their freaking their neurotransmitters are going to be transformed by their perception of the information being fed to them, you see. So for me to say, it's our responsibility to ensure that the energy of these once in a 25,000 year period, 25,000 year period, that are being handed to us like a galactic silver platter for us to take advantage of for a change. It's our responsibility to create the opportunities and all the factors that would ensure that momentum swings in our fucking favor for a change. We have to do that. And the only way that we can do that is to be fully present. And that present being something that changes our body chemistry. So that when we come into space with others and they don't understand why they've been so burdened for so long and they're so stressed out because of all the shit on social media and TV and the world's falling apart and oh my God, Jesus is coming back for the church, and all of a sudden you step into space with information that they don't have access to yet, they have not yet heard, and something in your body, baby, something in your blood, something emanating from your heart, your EMF, your electromagnetic field generated by the SA nodes in your heart that actually create more synaptic activity than your brain do, emanates from you. And suddenly, this is based on an idea though. This ain't something disembodied that creates this something different that emanates from you. You feel me? This something different that emanates from you is because you have information that they need. And that information that you possess is radiating out based on the neurotransmitters, based on the neurological expression and the blood chemistry transformation that has emboldened you, that has given you courage. And courage has a different impact on your kidneys and on your liver than fear and shock and frustration. And so now these beneficial blood chemicals that is contributing to how the heart is sending out this EMF in your 6 foot to 9 foot radius around you, and it's touching people. And they see something. I tell y'all all the time, There are cuter people than me. You feel me? I ain't did my head in months. You feel me? I ain't got no makeup on. Can't remember the last time I put on makeup. I got on a raggedy ass t-shirt. There are people out there cuter than me. But it never fails. Never. Baby, I got off work. I had on scrubs the other night. When I got off work, it was about 11 o'clock. I was like, damn, I need a drink. Went to the bar to go get a drink. 3 different men. I'm just sitting in the corner. I'm like trying to be incognito. You feel me? I ain't got no makeup on. I've been rubbing on white people backsides all day. I'm just like, I just want to be up in here and have a drink and go on about my life. You feel me? And I go up in there in my black scrubs, sitting in the corner, out of sight. 3 different men came and sat on the couch right next to me. I was like, who are you? What do you do? Oh, wow. One guy wanted to have a whole long ass conversation, child, about the movements. Regular, everyday white boy from Detroit. I don't even know why he came and sat next to me. All these beautiful people with some kind of festival or something. All these good looking people, all these beautiful people. It's like some film festival or something happening out here. So everybody was glammed the fuck up. Everybody was like, it was packed in there. And so he come and sit next to me. And I was like, yeah, I'm a healer. I didn't go into detail because I call myself trying to be short, but I still don't want to be hurtful of people's feelings. I know that I know what I know about what I emanate. You feel me? So when people come to me, it's not a coincidence. It's not something out of the blue. It's purposeful. And so even though I might be annoyed, I try not to be dismissive. Right. So this dude who just was like, I think he was probably trying to mac in the beginning. But then he was like, well, what do you do? He was like, what do you do that you're getting off this late? I was like, oh, I treat people. I make alcohols. He was like, wow, that's really interesting. He was like, it's crazy. It's crazy because I was just reading something today about what it looks like for serpentine energy to move through the chakras, like what it looks like in your health. This dude is a sound engineer, white boy from Detroit, working class looking dude from Detroit, talking about, wow, you go to people's house and you heal them. It's crazy. I just read this article today, and these were his words, not mine, about how serpentine energy moving through the chakras looks in a person's presentation. Like you can tell what kind of diseases they have if the serpentine energy is stuck in a chakra. That's what this white boy said. You understand what I'm saying? All I could do was chuckle. I was like, okay, spirit, I'm listening. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I just came in here to have a drink, but okay. Why would I mention this story? Because I am always, even if I'm annoyed, even if I'm not interested in having a conversation, I know what emanates from me that people are seeking, whether they know that consciously or not. People are out here fucked up and they are looking for something that anybody who is listening and has been listening for any significant period of time knows that you have. There is something that you have that is, and I get it. We as healers be having to protect ourselves, having to be guarding our energy and shit because people out here fucked up in the world and their spirit is looking for some place to let go of their burdens. So we have to squad up. You know what I'm saying? We got to cover up. We got to put the crystals in our pockets and in our titties and shit. You feel me? That's all true. But we have something that the world needs. I'm always clear that we have something and we've been preparing for this. So that's my struggle these days is like, I don't want to put my hands on nobody else. I do not want to put my hands on people therapeutically. I feel like there is enough that I have in my lived experiences, in my head, in my education, that should allow me to afford the kind of life that I want to live without my physical labor determining my ability to or to not live well, right? And so I'm always trying to work through that, right? How do I navigate this space? And if under extraordinary circumstances, I need to put my hands on people, then fine. But I would much rather teach many, reproduce the skills that I have acquired in many. So it is not something that I feel burdened to do, is to use the skills that have been gifted to me to burden myself by putting my hands on other people as much as I have been the last like in almost 20 years, right? But there's still, and people can determine for themselves how they use this thing that we have that is different from others, how we use this thing that people are seeking in us and do not yet know how to articulate this need that they have. But I really feel like even this thing that emanates from us, that attracts people to us and what we would think are the most awkward and unlikely scenarios and situations. You understand? I told y'all story after story after story of people coming to me that, like the white guy that I told y'all about in Arkansas, and I called him Billy the Crystal Whisperer. This redneck truck driver with hardly no teeth and a rebel flag bandana on and some holy jeans in the middle of the mountains of Arkansas was such a wonderful, genuine human being. He had the mind of a child. He was completely inquisitive, generous, just a all around good dude. You feel me? And if I had let my preconceived notions treat him in a different way, then it would have affirmed in him some ill-received, some ill-accepted idea he got about Black folks and how Black folks can't be trusted, how Black folks mean, or how Black women mean, or whatever. You feel me? I'm not rambling. I'm making a point, and then I'm gonna get to this reading. I love the fact that we now, because some of us need it, I get it, but now we have the language and we have the information that can prove in a lot of ways scientifically what our ancestors scientifically, methodically, strategically observed and applied in real life, but everybody else said it was witchy or it was, whatever, right? Now we have the language that can narrow this chasm. You understand? So I'm excited about that. And that's why I'm always going to try to dance between these lines of science and spirit and sociology and psychology and the impact and the ins and outs, these things that are supposed to be fluidly weaving in and out of each other, right? Dichotomized through oppression. I want to teach you how to navigate this chasm that we should all be occupying the space that exists between these dichotomies that have been imposed on us. You feel me? This is how we will be able to relate to the many. This is how we will be able to relate to the masses. This is how we will be able to change people's minds about one another, recognizing that oxytocin has its poles, just like everything else has its poles. Oxytocin is the love hormone. But if your perception of others is something that is outside of self, if your perception of others is that this is my enemy, they are not to be trusted, they mean me no good, then oxytocin becomes the chemical that creates aggression, that has you more prone to accept aggression against or participate in an aggression against those that you perceive as other, those that you perceive as enemy. That's deep. So while oxytocin, yes, is the love hormone, if you perceive that someone else is other, it becomes the hormone that fuels hate. Yes, deep shit. This is the purpose of understanding science and what it means philosophically. These very scientific, measurable phenomena. How do you translate that philosophically? Because that's all it is a translation. We're always fucked up by the translation. You understand? Anyway, I don't know what made me get on that, but yeah, I felt it was important. I remember why I got into that, because we're talking about us entering into this new moon, the new moon in the sign that represents the resurrection and reemergence of the Garden of Eden on earth. The Garden of Eden isn't a place on earth, it's the earth, right? The Garden of Eden is the earth, the mother to whom is Venus, the planet Venus, right? The sister of whom is our mother moon. this triple goddess, the earth, the moon, and Venus, working cyclically together to ensure the Garden of Eden, what should be the Garden of Eden, which is the mother's body, our mother earth. You feel me? And in this period that we're in, this new moon in Taurus, you know, we have to, one of the most important things is to be present in every moment, whether that means going out and hugging a tree, laying on the grass, looking at the sky, going dunking in the ocean, whatever your bag is being really deliberate about being in those environments, because being and taking in those environments is an expression of gratitude. When you observe and take pleasure in and acknowledge the earth, the body of the earth, when you're grounding, it's a relationship that you are reconnecting with. You're in these actions. This is an expression of gratitude. Ecstasy is an expression of gratitude. Orgasm should be an expression of gratitude, right? It is the active participation in reciprocity with our mother, reconnecting with this energy that is ever present, that gives us life in a myriad of ways, whether we acknowledge it or not, right? Happiness is an expression, should be an expression of a harmonious relationship with the body of the mother, right? And so these are the ways that we have to see what prayer is. I think I posted a picture a few days ago that had two different pictures of the same woman. It was split in half. One picture of the woman had her on her knees looking at a flower that was dying. She's on her knees with her hands clasped, praying, grow, 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 right? The other picture of her, and then that picture was called religion, right? Grow, grow, grow. The other picture was called spirituality, and it was her in this picture standing upright, saying thank you for growing, while she's pouring water on the flower and the sun is shining from above, and she's actively engaged in the cyclical process that ensures growth. She ain't got to have faith that it's going to grow. She ain't got to hope that it's going to grow, like the picture of religion. She got to pray. She ain't got to hope. She ain't got to have faith. That all she got to do is close her eyes and say please and please and please and please, and maybe the flower will grow. She just got to have faith that the flower will grow. She just got to have hope that the flower will grow. No, because science informs her in her genetic material the very real elements necessary to ensure a desired outcome, which is the healthy growth of this flower. Her participation in the cyclical process is the prayer. Her participation is the prayer. Her participation is what guarantees the outcome, which is a healthfully, beautiful, growing flower. She don't have hope, and faith is not required in this scenario at all. Because why is hope and faith not required? Because certainty is in the pot. Certainty is in the mix. Why certainty? Because science informs her of certainty of the outcome. Science informs her of the certainty of the outcome. And who is the master of science? The oldest among us. Because what we call conjecture, or what we call, quote, tradition, or what we call, any name that we give to that shit, if we know that observation and participation is what yields certainty, you do not need faith. You do not need hope. You cannot be swayed by rhetoric, because science informs us of a definite outcome. A definitive outcome. That's the scientific method. So here we are, quote, religious people, not understanding the scientific method of those elements necessary to create a certain and desired outcome, can go to these motherfucking polls every 4 years. And even though we recognize historically that the gains that we have, quote, achieved through the voting process countered with the losses that have come as a consequence of the electoral process, that the gains do not even come close to the losses. And every year we complain about them. And every year we can count down the list of losses versus gains from one president to the next, from one Senate to the next, from one House of Representatives to the next, from one Supreme Court justice to the next. And the gains never even come close to the losses, yet we still pile the fuck up in these goddamn voting polls, certain, because that's where faith, that's the role that religion plays, is having you bound by two chains with balls on the end. One is faith, one is hope, that a certain number of times and we're going to have a eureka moment, even though the science, the historical science, has taught us the myriad of ways which we have lost way more than we have gained. We still do the shit that woman was doing in the picture, where she on her knees praying that the flower will grow. That's what hope and prayer does to you. It makes you ignore science. It makes you ignore the scientific method. It makes you ignore the process of ensuring a certain result, ensuring through observation and participation a different and desired outcome that functions in your favor. That's what that does, you see. So spirituality is the fully embodied, holistic use of all of those elements that make her certain in this other picture that all she has to do is bask in this glowing sun and take in the environment around her and pour the water. And she knows that she is not a single entity in that picture, that everything is an expression of this embodied whole that is going to guarantee the desired outcome, which is a beautiful, flourishing flower that grows. This is the dance that we must do between spirit and science, history and religion, understanding the role that religion has played in creating a globe of zombies terrorized into stupidity and submission. They are stupid for a reason. They are dumb for a reason. They are catatonic for a reason. A whole lifetime, 2,000 years minimally, of terror campaigns, of mass murder and ritual sacrifice in the form of wars, because that's what wars are, ritual sacrifice, that have terrorized them into submission, that have terrorized them against the idea of knowing more, of seeing more, of being emboldened enough to change what is, to have the confidence and the scientifically observable understanding to ensure a different outcome. We don't have to guess about what the world can be. We don't have to guess about it. The potential is ours to create, and we have all the information presently that informs us of what we don't want to recreate. We can just do it. That could be the starting point, is whatever we're going to create collectively in the future is going to be the ass opposite, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just say direct, the direct extreme opposite of what exists now. That's all we got to do. We ain't even got to be talking about, we want to, overthrow this and we want to tear down this and we need a new voting system. And we ain't got to be doing that. All we have to do is be spending that energy instead of reacting to what is, to say, acknowledge what currently is and what we don't want to fucking recreate and start creating that. Okay, well, if this is this, what's the opposite of that? If this is the prison industrial complex and the history of it and the impact that it's had on people, what's the opposite? What is the opposite expression of justice that is not tied to patriarchy and misogyny and colonialism and imperialism and slavery and all of that shit? We don't have to keep fighting this shit and reacting to this shit, reacting to what is. What is demonstrating to us in real time what we have to create. What is the opposite? What is justice in the hands of a world where all these isms have been destroyed? Let's start creating that. The preschool to prison pipeline that helps these motherfuckers predict how many jails they need to build around fucking schools, because they create the conditions that ensure that these kids, a percentage of them gonna go to these jails, and we need somewhere to house them so we can start exploiting them right away. If we know that the preschool to prison pipeline exists, instead of spinning our wheels coming up with all the statistics about the ways that the prison industrial complex impacts people, we know what it is. We got the information now. We see the shit. Now, how do we get started right away, collectively, wherever we are and however this thing impacts our particular community? How do we build its opposition in real time? If we know that the freaking so-called medical, if we know that what we call, quote, healthcare in this country is a capitalistic, parasitic, medical industrial complex who's set up for its primary purpose is to stamp out all opposition, to stamp out any kind of alternative for the primary purpose of maintaining just a level of sickness or unwellness that keeps people able to go to work, but does not allow them any other time to think about their future, to plan about how they're going to participate in the global future, to give them dreams and ideas of what could be. You feel me? If you know that that's part of what the medical industrial complex does, and you can recognize that you ain't got to go through and repeat all the time, all the ways that the medical industrial complex is fucked up. Now you got a clear image of what is. How do we right away start to build its opposition, channel all that rage and all that energy and all that frustration into building its opposition? We say, and we can understand clearly, y'all say it all the time, and now you hear more and more women say it now. I do not debate with men. I do not debate with men. If you have an issue with something that I am saying, then what I am saying may not be something that is feeding your spirit. If it's tormenting your demons that deep, that may mean that you ain't at the level now where this is something that can feed you. And that's okay, but you ain't gonna get on my shit and expect that you about to go toe to toe with me on my shit. That's not what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna block your ass. Well, people can see that clearly. Like, yeah, don't debate with men. But we debate with the system all the time. Begging, pleading, screaming, yelling, protesting, you understand, over and over and over again. Like what? Like we really expect we about to appeal to the sensibility and the humanity of a system? People that work in the system aren't individuals. They're not individuals. They are a part of the body of a well-oiled, intentional machine, a mechanism that does exactly what it was built to do. So we out here spinning our wheels, spending all this energy, y'all. I just read to y'all a couple of months that the pamphlet that I had by V.I. Lenin on the state. I just read that to y'all. He was talking about this in the 1800s. He was this very thing that I'm talking to you about right now. He was like, yeah, poor people, oppressed people, the proletariat, the working class, they ain't got no shortage of energy. They ain't got no shortage of enthusiasm. What they don't have is a collective list of demands and vision for the future that they can all get on board with, even as they have their differences. These few things right here, we all got in common. We come together based on these things that we got. We make this our list of demands. And once we create this groundswell of energy, i.e. demonstrations, i.e. rebellions, once we create this energetic swell of energy in the millions, we can ensure a desired outcome. At the end of this swell, at the end of this wave, our demands are the ones that are met, not some individual, coons, not some individual sellout, not some individual agent stepping in front of the swell that we have made to articulate demands that are not in alignment with what we need as a whole. With what we need as a whole. You feel me? So everything becomes the issue, but the issue in an attempt to keep you from collectivizing your worldview, collectivizing the vision that you have for the future that can benefit us all. Now it becomes these cute little motherfucking chants that we do at a goddamn demonstration for a few months. And at the end, ain't nobody won shit. Ain't that what happened after not Tyrone Lewis, what's his name? There ain't no shortage. There ain't no shortage. But it's always what happens. You understand? We get mad. We say some cop killer name. You feel me? Or we say the person who was murdered, they name. And at the end, the family will be lucky if they get reparations. Even more lucky if somebody actually go to jail for the crime, because this energy, this momentum created by the masses is wrangled, used, and diverted in a direction that is not to our benefit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't talking about George Floyd. I was talking about child. It's a crime. The baby in Florida that Zimmerman killed. You feel me? It's exactly right, Nikki. It is an energetic harvest. I saw on I forget the name of the show, but this was some years ago, maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago. I saw this show. What's the dude name who played Frasier? Y'all remember the show Frasier? The guy that played the lead in Frasier, the kind of scientific guy, Trayvon Martin. Thank you so much. What was the outcome? Nothing that benefited the community, nothing that benefited the family, nothing that benefited anybody but Skittles and a goddamn Arizona tea, and you feel me? And Zimmerman, it benefited him. You feel me? Because there was no shortage of Uncle Toms standing in front of agents of the state, standing in front of the momentum created by the people who were. I was in Florida at the time. I was living in Tampa at the time. We were at some of the demonstrations for Trayvon Martin. You feel me? And so we remember in the early stages how the demand was for justice, how the demand was righteously indignant. And all you have to do is have a bunch of suit and tie wearing Negroes to divert the energy in a direction that is directly in opposition to what the original demands were. That happened with George Floyd's campaign. You feel me? Now it becomes the victim telling the criminal who has not even asked for forgiveness, I forgive you. I forgive you. This is a narrative generated by our opposition. And most of the time, then people are terrorized into saying that bullshit. 90% of the time, they are being terrorized behind closed doors to say that dumbass shit, to demoralize the group, to quell the rage of the group, to corral the energy generated by righteous indignation. You feel me? And so, the dude Frasier, that's what I was getting to. The dude Frasier, the guy who played Frasier, there was a show that he, after his little controversy and shit, a few years later, there was a show that he was in where he plays the mayor, I want to say, of Chicago. He plays the mayor of Chicago. I only saw this one episode because I was doing a client's hair while he was watching it. This dude has like his, it's not his chief of staff, but it's still like his right-hand man. It's a brother who's like his right-hand man. It's like this dude is like his liaison to the Black community type of dude. You always see this white guy with this dude who is his, liaison. This is the dude who interprets politics for the Black community in Chicago, right? This is the episode that I saw. So when I tell you shit always be purposeful, because I haven't watched that show again or before. He tells the dude, come to my office, I got an assignment for you. He said, because the cops had apparently killed some kid, and there were demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations happening on the streets of Chicago. The demonstrations have been going for about a week with no incident, right? Without incident. And so he calls the brother into his office. He was like, this is off record, but I got an assignment for you. I got something I need you to do for me. He said, what day is this? How many days has this demonstration been going? And he was like, about a week, and maybe about 8 days or whatever. And he says, look, have there been any reported incidences, any vandalism, any assault, anything like that? He's like, nah, man, it's crazy. He's like, the police are out, there hasn't been a single incident in a week. And he said, okay. He said, do you know anybody recently released, out? They've only been out, a week. 3 weeks, whatever, recently released. He was like, yeah, I know a gang of brothers, from my neighborhood who have been out, just a short period of time. He said, well, what I need you to do is I need you to put them on the payroll. And he was like, for what? He was like, well, according to my calculations, it's been too many years since our last riot, And we could use some of that insurance money that comes to the city every time there's a rebellion in the city. So I need you to take them 3 guys right there and give them some money, wipe out they incarceration record. And in exchange for them setting this shit off, we'll wipe their record clean. We'll give them some coins. We'll make sure they set. We'll make sure they family set. But I need them to go out and like bandanas, you feel me? Pretend they part of the crowd and start fucking up some shit, throwing some bricks through some windows. Because he said something to the effect of the last rebellion that we had, or the last quote riot we had in the city, it generated X number of billions of dollars of insurance money that was infused into the city and gave the city its next stage of development and growth. Y'all get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm telling you? Lenin said over 120 years ago, this state will always surf the wave generated by the oppressed. The state will always surf the energetic momentum generated by the oppressed masses who have not articulated keenly and definitively their own material interests. And the state will use anybody to do it. The state will use artists to do it. This is not me saying this. This is V.I. Lenin saying this in the late 1800s. He said the state will use artists. The state will use musicians. The state will use preachers and priests. The state will use whoever it needs to surf the wave of the momentum generated over and over and over and over and over again by the oppressed masses to build something and win something for itself at their expense. So all this energy they expend, all this yelling they do, all this money they lose, not going to work or whatever, all this energy that they produce has never benefited them. Because again, if you go just through the last 100 years of rebellions, successful revolutionary struggles, not revolutionary movements, revolutionary struggles. And you go through country through country through country through country, community through community, rebellion, movement, and do an honest list, an honest historical assessment of gains versus losses. All that energy, all that movement, all that momentum, always directed to serve the state. That's what parasitism is. That's what it means for a society to be parasitic at birth, parasitic in its inception. Everything that it does is parasitism. Everything that it builds is parasitic. Why you act confused about the medical system? Why you act confused about the educational system? Why you act confused about the so-called judicial system in this country? Y'all be acting confused when y'all out there fighting them. Y'all be acting confused about what it is you're looking at. I'm not confused. I'm not confused about why these institutions function the way that they do. They are parasitic by nature. They are parasitic by design. They are parasitic by design. You understand? So again, if you can accept and recognize that these institutions function exactly the way that they are developed to, created to, implemented to, then you can crystal clear see that what it is, acknowledging what this is, how do I build and generate its opposition? If the issue at hand is this thing happening in the Middle East to Palestinians, is what it is, and you recognize the history, the length and the development, the growth, the inception of the Israeli state as parasitic from inception, intentions clearly laid out to be parasitic. At what juncture did the parasite let go to host? While y'all saying ceasefire, that's all y'all fighting for, ceasefire. That's not going to resolve the problem that exists in the Middle East. A ceasefire. That's what y'all articulating. You understand? because you ain't even honest enough to say what you want to say, because they have terrorized you so that you cannot say what you want to say, what you know it is the right thing to say. That no group of people have a right or a predestined right to exist at the expense of another. No nation, nowhere on earth. You understand? You understand? So, this is what we're looking at. And I've had several people ask me, have you gone out to UCLA for the Nope. Don't even flinch when I say it. Nope. Are you pro-Palestinian? Have been for 20 years. And you ain't going to the demonstrations? No. Participate in the boycott? Cool. Been doing that for longer than a lot of you been alive. That's not a problem. But me going out and doing a demonstration when even the man that y'all love and hail as one of the great thinkers of socialist ideology said, why y'all keep spinning y'all wheels at these goddamn demonstrations? Why y'all keep participating in these swells of rebellions without going into this shit strategically with a clear goal in mind and objectives that contribute to the fulfillment of that goal, that guarantee that after life is lost, after you done got yourself knocked over the head, after y'all done engaged in some kind of political struggle, you the one that wins something in the end. Here we are, 130 something years later. He was clear. That book could have been, it reads like it could have been written yesterday. Here we are. It's doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Yeah, millions and millions and millions of y'all gonna head out to that motherfucking poll this year. Still holding on to this wicked, diabolical philosophy of choosing the lesser of two evils. One is a genocidal megalomaniac feigning senility, feigning cognitive decline, feigning oldness to galvanize sympathy. What did I tell y'all? Biden is the poster child for strategic and weaponized incompetence. He is the poster child for the government executing strategic and weaponized incompetence to neutralize you. You understand? He is a willing, enthusiastic participant in the genocide of the indigenous people of Palestine. He is a willful, enthusiastic participant and facilitator of war crimes. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. You understand? And then, so these are your options. A willful, enthusiastic facilitator of and participant in genocide in real time, or the other genocidal megalomaniac who's the target of his genocidal attacks, listen, rest over decades. Because it's easy for you to see Biden as a genocidal megalomaniac. It's so difficult for you to see Trump as a genocidal megalomaniac because the objects of his genocidal exploits were black-skinned people. Black-skinned folks. Mm-hmm. That's the history. That ain't conjecture. That ain't my opinion. You look at his time in New York. You look at the crimes he committed against black people in New York. That's genocide. What are the articles of genocide? Intent to destroy members of the group. Complicity in genocide against the group. What's the other one? Acts meant to remove children of the group away from the group. The articles on genocide are very crystal clear and easy to understand. You understand? So anyway, yeah. So y'all gonna do that, no matter despite the fact that me and many others have told you for some time To participate in the institutions of the state is to legitimize the state. That's why I've never voted in a presidential election. I will never vote in a presidential election. Never. Now, while I will participate in local electoral politics, I will never legitimate the state that I am 1,000% diametrically opposed to. Fuck the Constitution. Goddamn the Bill of Rights. How we just accept this shit and it never had any of us in mind. That shit didn't have black people in mind, didn't have native people in mind, didn't have yellow people in mind, didn't have brown people in mind, didn't have women in mind, didn't have children in mind, still don't have children in mind. It was clear. And because we can amend it, we can create mutations in this wicked goddamn instrument that is being held over our heads all the time, as if this is the only personification of justice that we can possibly envision, we can possibly understand. Women still aren't considered equal citizens in the United States based on that same piece of paper. We cannot even imagine creating a new and opposing constitution. We have deified the Constitution. We have deified. The Constitution is America's Bible. You feel me? We can see in our personal relationships how the Bible has harmed us, how the Bible has cast spells on our goddamn brains since we was children. We can see that right now in real time. But cannot see how the Godhead called the United States of America its primary weapon of choice are the philosophical ideas imposed in your goddamn consciousness that have you joint at the hip with this bitch, even as it's kicking your ass every day. Even as it's kicking your ass every day. You understand? So I don't know. I don't know what we I don't know. All I know is what we know. What I know is that's the only way forward is to build institutions of dual and contending power. Whatever we see, acknowledge it. Don't be a bypasser. Don't be putting on evaders and blinders. Face it. See what it is. Analyze its history, all the things that have contributed to its personification in the world, and build its opposition. Create its opposition. That's it. Dual and contending power is the only way to create the new. It is the only way to generate the new. Seeing a thing and what it does and how it behaves and being honest in your analysis of what it is, and then generate the new, the extreme opposite of it. That's it. That's all. You feel me? We need to be creating new paradigms of the execution of justice based on what we already know. We ain't even got to create it from the new. We can take old ideas and transform them in a way that suits us in the here and now, and let that be an organic instrument that has the ability to grow and lose appendages if need be. You feel me? I did a presentation a few months ago about the Fates and the Furies, the Moray, right? Nemesis as the goddess, right? The Iami, Ajay in Ifat tradition, Sekhmet in Kemetic tradition, Hecate, Pele, Kali. These are full embodiments of the mother. These are full generative and destructive embodiments of the mother. You see, they have stories that tell us what the execution of justice, genuine justice, not blind justice. Justice don't need to be blind. Genuine justice in its execution, spearheaded by the energies of the mothers, can look like in the world and how it can harmonize the world. You feel me? I just read something to y'all last week about the history of what do they call them? Sex boycotts. The history of sex boycotts, and how what did they say in pre-colonial Nigeria? The women were the executors of justice. They were the ones that determined the quality of justice, the execution of justice. The women did that, and the men yielded. out of respect for the embodiment of the mother. They yielded. You feel me? This is the word.